Decades before European ships dared cross the open ocean, a fleet unlike anything the world had ever seen set sail from China. It numbered hundreds of vessels, and its largest ships towered over anything Europe would build for another century. Nearly 30,000 sailors, soldiers, and officials crewed this armada, sent to sail across half the known world, from Southeast Asia to India, Arabia, and the coast of Africa. At its head stood a man born a captive who rose to become one of the most trusted commanders in the empire. His name was Zheng He, Admiral of the Treasure Fleet. This is the story of his extraordinary voyages and the empire that built, then abandoned, the greatest navy on Earth.
Zheng He was born around 1371 in a Muslim family in the mountains of Yunnan in southwestern China, a region only recently conquered by the new Ming dynasty. As a boy of about 10, his world was shattered. Ming soldiers captured him during their conquest of the region, and, following the brutal custom of the era, he was castrated and made a eunuch, then sent to serve in the household of a prince. It was a devastating fate for any child. Yet within the palace, the boy proved himself remarkably gifted, intelligent, and physically strong, standing out among the many servants of the court. The prince he served would soon fight his way to the imperial throne and take his talented young eunuch with him. The prince who owned young Zheng He was ambitious, and in 1402 he seized the imperial throne in a bloody civil war, becoming the Yonglei Emperor. Zheng He had fought bravely at his master's side, and his loyalty and skill earned him extraordinary rewards. The new emperor made him a trusted commander and advisor, one of the most powerful eunuchs in the entire empire. Yonglei was determined to project Chinese power and glory across the known world, and he needed someone brilliant enough to lead the way. He found that person in Zheng He, a man of imposing height, sharp intelligence, and unwavering devotion. Together, they were about to launch one of the most astonishing ventures in the history of exploration. To project China's power across the seas, the Yongle Emperor ordered the construction of a fleet beyond anything the world had imagined. Shipyards swarmed with tens of thousands of workers, building enormous 9-masted treasure ships, some reportedly over 400 feet long, dwarfing any vessel Europe would build for 100 years more. Alongside them came supply ships, water tankers, and mighty warships bristling with soldiers. It was a staggering feat of engineering and organization, drawing on the wealth and manpower of the greatest empire on Earth. When it was finished, this armada represented the full might and ambition of Ming China. Command of this unprecedented fleet was given to the emperor's most trusted man. In 1405, Zheng He led his colossal fleet out of Chinese waters for the very first time, beginning a voyage that would carry them across Southeast Asia and all the way to India. Everywhere they went, the sight of these towering ships filled foreign rulers with astonishment. Zheng He carried gifts of silk and porcelain and firm demands for recognition of Chinese authority, backed by the unmistakable threat of overwhelming military power. Kings and sultans who resisted were sometimes met with force, while those who submitted were rewarded richly. When the fleet returned home 2 years later, it brought back foreign ambassadors and exotic treasures for the emperor. It was a triumph, and only the first of 7 extraordinary voyages Zheng He would command. Over the following decades, Zheng He commanded 6 more grand voyages, each pushing further than the last. His fleet sailed to the Persian Gulf, to the Arabian Peninsula, and along the eastern coast of Africa, reaching lands the Chinese had only heard of in legend.
He brought home astonishing wonders, exotic spices, precious gems, and even a living giraffe, which the delighted court mistook for a mythical unicorn. Along the way, Zheng He, a devout Muslim, made the pilgrimage to Mecca and helped spread Chinese influence and trade across dozens of kingdoms. For nearly 3 decades, his voyages made China the dominant power of the seas, decades before any European ship would dare venture so far from home. The voyages were not always peaceful. Zheng He's fleet fought pirates who threatened the shipping lanes of Southeast Asia, capturing a notorious pirate warlord and bringing him back to China in chains. In Ceylon, when a local king turned hostile and threatened the fleet, Zheng He's soldiers captured him too and installed a more cooperative ruler in his place. These were not conquests for territory, but demonstrations of overwhelming Chinese power and a determination to keep the seas safe for trade. Storms, disease, and the sheer danger of the open ocean claimed the lives of many sailors along the way. Yet time and again, the treasure fleet returned home triumphant, its authority and reach seemingly unstoppable.
But back home, the treasure voyages were tremendously expensive, and many officials at court had never approved of them at all. They argued the fleets drained the treasury while bringing little practical benefit, and that China's true dangers lay not overseas, but along its northern borders. When the Yongle Emperor died, and after one more voyage under his successor, a new emperor came to power who agreed with the critics. The great shipbuilding was halted, records of the voyages were reportedly destroyed, and China turned its gaze inward. The empire that had briefly commanded the greatest navy the world had ever known chose deliberately to sail away from the sea and from the world beyond its shores.
Despite the court's growing doubts, Zheng He was given command of one final, 7th voyage in 1431, sailing once more toward the distant shores of Africa and Arabia. He was now around 60 years old, having spent almost his entire adult life at sea in service of the empire. According to tradition, Zheng He died during this last voyage, in the year 1433, and was buried at sea, far from the mountains of Yunnan, where his extraordinary journey had begun. The greatest admiral China had ever produced passed away just as the age of the treasure fleets was ending forever. His death marked the close of an astonishing chapter that the empire itself seemed determined to forget.
For centuries afterward, Zheng He's astonishing voyages faded from memory, overshadowed by the very empire that once sent him to sea. Yet slowly, the world rediscovered his story, and today he is honored across Asia as a symbol of exploration, courage, and diplomacy achieved without conquest. His fleets reached farther and sailed longer than any in the world at the time, decades before Europe's own age of discovery began. Temples and shrines bearing his name still stand throughout Southeast Asia, tended by descendants of the very lands he once visited. Zheng He, the captured boy who became an admiral, reminds us that the ocean once belonged, briefly and magnificently, to China, before the tide of history quietly turned away.
Zheng He, the captured boy who became an admiral and commanded the greatest fleet the world had ever seen.